It's such a wonderful honor and a wonderful blessing to be here, and such deep, deep, deep gratitude to URI for this conference, yes, but also for what they're doing in the world to really remind us, you are I. When we toss it around, but if every time we tossed it around, we actually really remembered how many of the problems that afflict us today would be gone just in that, just in remembering, you are I. So thank you so much for the opportunity to be here. And when we talk about women's empowerment and the environment, when I first saw the email with the topics, I thought, oh, okay, this is great. 2 really good, important topics. And then as I sat with them, you realize, oh, wait, these aren't 2 topics. They're not just 2 aspects of development or 2 things to remember for any well-intentioned and functional NGO or FBO that we have to make sure to get checked off on our to-do list. Yes, women's empowerment. Yes, environment. But they are interlinked and interlocked in a way that is so deep and that runs on so many levels, from the logistic to the cultural to the spiritual. In most of the world's languages that have masculine and feminine properties, nature and the earth are feminine. In the Sanskrit language, the energy of creation, Shakti, that which creates all, that which moves the universe, feminine. That which is created, Shrishti, feminine. Nature, Prakriti, feminine. So that energy, that feminine energy, is the energy of creation, the energy of that which is created, that call to create. Mahatma Gandhi used to pray every day, "Oh Lord, make me more feminine." Why? Not make me more dainty, not make me more ladylike, not that. Make me more feminine, so that I may be more in touch with that energy of creation. And this brings about an important point that is worth mentioning as we're talking about women's empowerment. I don't have time to go into this aspect too much, but it's important to at least mention. When we talk about women's empowerment as the antidote to or antithesis of oppression, suppression, there's 2 aspects of that. One is the suppression and oppression of women, which we know is going on all over the world in a whole variety of places and ways, and we'll talk about that. And that needs to be remedied. But there's also a repression and an oppression of the feminine that doesn't just exist in women, but that exists in men. And the reason that is equally important to remedy is when we speak about the environment and we speak about the earth, we speak about peace. This is not just a woman's job. This is not about, okay, now how are women empowered going to come together and take care of what women disempowered watched happen. But this is about how together the women and the men connected to that feminine energy are able to bring back a peace in our hearts, in our words, in our actions, therefore in our families, in our communities, in our nations, in our world, and to Mother Earth. The fact that we have used religion, have used some very misconstrued, misunderstood, misinterpreted notion, concept of dominion over the earth as an excuse to pillage her because somehow God has given us the right to do so is not only injustice, but it's sacrilege. Justice for the earth is justice for women. Because that same myth of separation, that same ability to other the other, that same yearning for power that stems from our deep-seated fear of powerlessness, that same objectification of all things feminine that enables us to rape the earth is what enables us to rape our mothers, our daughters, our sisters, and the women of this world. And so that myth of separation must be healed. And that is what we are here together to do. There's a story I love of 3 men who are stranded on a boat in the middle of the ocean. And as people do in any stressful situation, they start to fight. And as a response to their fighting, they decide, well, we will divide this boat into 3 equal parts so that each man can just stay in his own 1/3, and theoretically then we will stop fighting. So they weren't stranded with duct tape, but they draw imaginary invisible lines down the boat, and each man has his own 1/3. A few days later, 2 of the men look over and they notice a leak has sprung in the 3rd man's part of the boat. And they say, "Stop up the leak. This boat's going to sink. We're all going to drown." And the 3rd man says, "Oh, don't worry." He says, "It's only leaking in my part of the boat." And I love the story because we laugh and we realize, of course, that imaginary and invisible lines, or no imaginary and invisible lines, a leak in any part of the boat is going to bring the whole thing down. And yet, as we live in this myth of separation, this myth of othering the other that enables us to oppress and oppress the women and the feminine and the earth, we're all sinking. We're all drowning. As we speak more specifically about women's empowerment and the earth, we have to realize that the way that women are impacted by the environmental crisis is not just logistic, and we'll talk about it. We'll talk about the logistics, we'll talk about water, we'll talk about land, we'll talk about all of that. But it's deeper than that. Women are the earth. We say Mother Earth. We say Mother Nature. Women are the earth. In the Sanskrit tradition, there's a mantra that is recited very frequently that says Vasudev Kutumbakam, and it means the world is a family. But literally what it means, Vasudha, is the earth. And literally what it means is that all that of Vasudha is one. We are all one of Mother Earth, of Mother Nature. And we are here together as people of faith. And the power of faith is the power of oneness, of recognizing that that same creator and that same creation lives in us. And so, yes, we are one with the sacred creation, and we are one with the powerful creator, which means we have the power to make a change. And that is what we are being called upon to do. This is Sushila Devi. She lives in a slum of Delhi, of North Delhi. And water's running out in India. I'll show you slides after this of other parts of India. But in her slum, there's no water, except every day, theoretically, when the system functions, a tanker of water comes in. And one day last summer, the tanker came, and they all, you can imagine what it's like. Imagine being thirsty, how excited we are to get a glass of water when it's been half an hour, maybe an hour since we've had one. But nonetheless, that feeling of thirst, that joy of having water. So you can only imagine, I mean, I can't even begin to imagine what that morning began like for her. So excited, the tanker's coming, they're going to get water, they'll have water to drink, water to cook with, maybe even water to bathe in. But there wasn't enough water, and fights broke out. And her husband and her son were killed in the fighting. Her husband's name was Lal Bahadur, and her son's name was Rahul. And they were killed in the fighting. And I share this, there's a lot of stories, I'm only going to tell this one, but I share this because this is the future of what's happening in our world, in this acceptance of the myth of separation. Well, she's different from us, she's separate from us, I can just go out and buy a bottle of water, we're all okay. Only for a very, very short period of time can we live in this myth of separation. This is the reservoir outside of Chennai, India, last week, where Chennai ran out of water, a city of 10 million people, the 6th largest city of India. That is the cracked floor of the dam. By 2020, which is basically today, 21 cities in India will have no more groundwater. We don't have time, unfortunately, to go into all aspects of the environment and what we're facing and what the impact is. I want to walk you through just very quickly a couple of the most dire statistics where we are today. So by 2030, India is going to have half the drinking water that it needs. By 2040, and these are UN statistics, these are Niti Aayog statistics, by 2040, the rest of the world will be there. That's basically tomorrow. Now, a lot of us work in different aspects of development and find ourselves convening in different places around the world, talking about aspects of refugees and displacement. Well, it is said that by 2040, we will have up to 700 million water refugees, UN statistics. Up to 700 million people displaced. Now, whatever you care about, whatever area you're working in, Is it human rights? Is it safety? Is it food? Is it sanitation? Is it children? Is it education? Is it violence? Whatever area it is, what we know is it's exacerbated in people on the move. And so every single situation we are currently faced with is just going to get worse. So, walking you quickly through our foundation, our Global Interfaith WASH Alliance is the world's first alliance bringing together leaders of the different religions together for water, sanitation, and hygiene. The work of Jiwa is expanding as we've seen the power of faith to change the way we think and therefore the way that we behave and live and the choices that we make with regard to aspects of ending open defecation, of sanitation, of hygiene. And we're now expanding it into areas of women's empowerment and ending taboos against menstruation, ending early child marriage. I have a couple-minute video I'll show you in a few minutes about that. And really what we've seen is the power of faith to change how people think and therefore how they behave. These are some of our programs on the ground. I don't have time to go through them. I do have some brochures that we can make available afterwards. But we are working, as we say, on the grand level and on the ground level. And the previous slides were some of the grand level slides. These are some of the ground level slides. Tree plantation. Getting children, and especially girls, together planting trees. Trees are in many ways on a logistic level moving from the theological, the philosophical, the heart solutions of oneness to the on-the-ground practicalities. Trees are the solution. In many parts of India and the world, our rivers come not just from glacial sources, but actually from trees. That's what makes the rivers flow, is the water that comes from the trees. And so tree plantation is something that is truly an answer, and it's something that we are deeply, deeply committed to. And just to give you one incredible statistic, one oak tree in 1 year gives 40,000 gallons of water back into the environment. This is aside from the shade it gives. This is aside from the oxygen it gives. It's aside from the carbon dioxide that it absorbs. It literally is the water that it breathes, pumps out back into the environment. So if you can do nothing else, plant trees. So, as I mentioned, we are working, bringing together the power of faith leaders for change. This is a short video that I wanted to share of programs that we're doing particularly related to women's empowerment, ending the early child marriage, which we know is mostly for girls, and ending the taboo around menstruation. The program that you'll see here was in the Kumbh Mela recently in Prayagraj with 250 million people who came together, drawn simply by the power of faith. And we are committed to harnessing that and seeing how in that faith we can share with people ways of thinking and therefore living differently.
The Global Interfaith WASH Alliance, a unique effort that harnesses the power of faith to bring about lasting change. noble endeavor to improve sanitation and hygiene, to empower women, and to create a future that is healthy and happy for all.
भारत के ऋषियों के वो संस्कार, भारत की ऋषियों की वो संस्कृति, उसको जिंदा रखने के लिए हमें अपनी मातृशक्ति को सम्मान देना होगा। सच मानिए, नारी को सामान से मत भरिए, नारी का सम्मान करिए। नारी का सम्मान ही उनका सच्चा आभूषण है।
शिक्षा से पहले कोई शादी नहीं होगी। जब शादी होगी, शादी से पहले शिक्षा होगी, और शिक्षा के साथ इसी संस्कृति की संस्कारों को भी अपनी लड़कियों को देना चाहिए कि आप में देवी है, आप अपवित्र नहीं हैं।
Jiva brings together faith leaders, decision makers, and experts, giving a new hope to young girls and women across the world.
In that it comes together in India, bringing the 5 religions together, and the power of one voice of religious leaders, particularly as we saw yesterday, women, is incredibly powerful.
अपनी बेटी को इतना योग्य बना दो, चाहे आप जो बनाओ, जो बनेगी भगवान के विधान से, लेकिन उसको वो दिशा दो, उसके ऊपर वो सारे रिसोर्सेज लगा दो। उसको IAS बनाओ, उसको IPS बनाओ, उसको डॉक्टर इंजीनियर बनाओ। चाहे मंथली तो एक नेचुरल प्रोसेस है, यदि मंथली नहीं होता तो दुनिया में कोई पुरुष ही पैदा नहीं होता।
जो तुम्हारी लड़की है, अभी ढंग से उसकी पढ़ाई नहीं हुई है, अभी ढंग से ना वो साफ सफाई समझ रही है, अभी ढंग से ना उसने गृहस्थी समझी है, कैसे करना ये नहीं समझा है, अभी ना वो ताकत उसमें आई है, ना तुमने ढंग से खिला पिलाया है, उसको ताकत दी है, तो फिर अभी गृहस्थी में ढकेलोगी कैसे?
अगर हम नारी शक्ति का वास्तव में नारियों को सशक्तिकरण शक्ति देना चाहते हैं तो हमें उनको अच्छी शिक्षा देनी होगी।
अगर आपकी माँ, आपकी पिता, आपकी नानी, नाना, दादी, दादा, अगर सभी लोग सफाई की कर्मचारी थे, आपके बच्चों उनकी शिक्षा करा दीजिएगा, उनको स्कूल में भेजिएगा, और अगर उसके लिए कोई भी सहयोग चाहिए आप हमको बता दीजिएगा, तो हम आपकी सहयोग करेंगे उनकी एजुकेशन में।
To eradicate misconceptions, meaningless boundaries, and taboos, to change the values, thought processes, and behaviors that create water scarcity. To end discrimination and violence on the basis of gender, caste, and creed, to create a world where all are equal, where children have a right to childhood, where education comes before marriage, where no one dies due to lack of water, hygiene, sanitation, or violence. This is Jiva, changing the world one small step at a time.
नारी शक्ति की जय! नारी शक्ति!
In my last 1 minute, us here today, people of faith, we must, number 1, end this myth of separation. We must end our complicity with a system that is working to feed us separation on the basis of race, on the basis of religion, on the basis of socioeconomic status, on the basis of color, of culture, of sexual orientation, of gender, of course. We must absolutely refuse to be part of that. We have the answer. The answer is the oneness that all of our religious traditions in our own languages, in our own ways, in our own gospels have told us. Religion, faith, gives us the power of knowing what to say no to and knowing what to say yes to. And we must use both of those powers today. We must use the power of no, the power of resistance, using our grounding and our anchoring and our truth in our faith to resist that which we know must be resisted. To resist it with our words, with our actions, with our dollars, with our votes, and with our implicit and explicit agreement to be part of a world of separation. And we must use our yes to come together in the oneness that we know we are. And my last slide I wanted to share with you, because we're here in Northern California. So these are the redwoods. And most trees, as we know, grow tall and strong because their roots are deep in the earth. The redwood is different. The redwood's roots are actually not so deep. But what they are, and these are the oldest and tallest trees in the world, is those roots are interconnected. The roots of every tree in a redwood forest are connected to the roots of every other tree in the redwood forest. And that, as we talk about accelerating peace, the only way to accelerate peace is to become reconnected, to remember our connection. And with that, as we close, I would just ask you all to join me and to rise as we are connected, and to raise your hands together with the beautiful inspiration of the redwoods in front of us, and to raise our hands together in a pledge and a commitment that we will not be co-opted into an illusion of separation, and we will stay grounded and rooted and anchored in our awareness and truth of our oneness with all of creation, with the Creator, with everyone and everything. Thank you. Will you bring me a plant? And with that, I know last night our leaders of URI honored and awarded so many people, so many deeply, deeply worthy organizations and people. And I wanted to just take a moment to honor them. In Rishikesh, we give tree saplings, but here we have saplings of the azalea bush, because I've been told that the azalea flowers are the first to blossom and the last to lose their blossoms. And as people of faith, we must, in the words of Khalil Gibran, give our fragrance like the flower gives its fragrance to the shoe that has stepped upon it. And the work that URI is doing to spread life and fragrance and flowers all over the world, I would love if Victor and Karen, and of course, if Bishop Swing could come forward and we can honor you with this.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.